Hello and welcome to Explore Your Options Week with Macquarie. Today we're going to be taking you through all things entry. My name is Rhiannon and I've just finished my third year of a Bachelor of Advanced Science with a major in Biology.
Hi guys, my name is Connor. I'm going into my final year of a Bachelor of Applied Finance.
So the presentation today is all about getting personalised advice just for your situation. So we know you've just received your ATAR and your HSC marks, which can be a little bit scary, a little bit overwhelming, but don't worry, we're here to take you through all of the pathways that you now have to consider.
Rhiannon and I are actually living examples that your ATAR doesn't define you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of how I went from UAC not even recognising my Year 12 certificate to getting into my dream degree, and Rhiannon will do the same for her story. And then we'll go through some of the programs that we used in order to get here. So the first one we'll go through will be the adjustment factors, which are formerly known as bonus points, and then we'll also go through an entry program and then the alternative entry pathways that me and Rhiannon used, and some other ones as well. Okay, so a little bit about myself. So as I said before, my name's Connor. I actually completed my Year 12 in Queensland on the Gold Coast, and during my Year 12 year, I decided I wanted to continue my study in Sydney. So I decided to come down for a weekend. I had a look at all the universities that I was really considering, and ultimately I decided that Macquarie was the place for me. So, doing my due diligence, I went ahead and applied through UAC. Waited until the date, it came and it went, and I had received nothing. So I gave UAC a call and was just saying, hey, what was up? Do I need to upload anything else? I haven't received anything. I thought I was going to receive at least something. And essentially they told me that they didn't recognise what I had done whatsoever. So hearing that, it was kind of like a punch in the throat. I couldn't really breathe. There was a huge weight on my shoulders. I'd already organised to come and move down, but now I mightn't have even been studying. So I frantically was freaking out, and they told me the only way that you'd be able to get in was if your university had some other pathway. So I quickly picked up the phone, I called Macquarie, and I got through to the Future Students team, and they told me about these alternative entry pathways, and I'd never heard of that. I thought it may have been something that was for, mature age students or something, nothing that really applied to me, but boy was I wrong. There were so many options, and ultimately I ended up deciding on the diploma program. So I knew I wanted to do something with business, so I decided to enroll in the Diploma of Accounting, Commerce and Business Administration. And before I knew it, late September had come around and I was starting uni just like everyone else. Little to my knowledge, now it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made, and honestly, looking back, if I could go back in time and do it all again and get straight into the Bachelor, I still think I would choose the diploma for everything it's gave me. And I'll tell you a little bit about the awesome opportunities through it a little bit later.
Okay, so like Connor, my transition into university was quite unique. So I came into Macquarie at the age of 22, so I was considered a mature age student. So I graduated high school in 2011, and during school I was an okay student, but I certainly didn't get the grades I was capable of getting. After high school finished, I worked full-time, I travelled, I moved out of home, amazing experiences, but I decided that I really wanted to come to university. So once I had decided upon Macquarie and their amazing science department, I then had to consider how am I actually going to get here, because I didn't have an ATAR or an ATAR equivalent. So I sat down with Macquarie's Future Students team and they walked me through all of the different options that I had, and we decided upon the next step pathway, which I'll tell you a little bit about later. So the first program we're going to talk to you about is the Academic Entry Program. And the way this program works, it considers individual HSC subjects It considers individual HSC marks and compares them to your desired degree. So for example, if you were considering a Bachelor of Science and you received a Band 4 or more in English, a Band 5 or more in Math, and say a Band 4 or more in Biology, UAC would consider that if you have Macquarie listed as your first preference.
That's it. So, as she said, there's no actual formal application you need to do. As long as you have our degree in your preference list and you meet those requirements for the degree you want to get into, perfect, you've got an offer.
So, The next thing are adjustment factors. So like Connor said before, you might commonly know these as bonus points. And at Macquarie, you can receive up to 10 adjustment factors depending on your circumstances. So the first is academic advantage. And this works in a similar way to the academic entry program that I just spoke about. It considers individual HSC marks and it compares them against your desired degree. The next is the rural entry scheme. So this takes into account your rural postcode, and based on your postcode, it will match your selection rank. A similar one is the new catchment adjustment factor. So this is brand new, you'd be the first cohort to receive it, and it considers either your school's postcode or your residential postcode, and if you fall within the Macquarie catchment, you can receive a certain number of adjustment factors.
So I would recommend going right now, have a look on the website. If you type in your postcode, the amount you get anywhere in our catchment is 5 bonus points. So 5 for literally nothing. So it's really awesome. So then there's the Educational Access Scheme. Now for this one, you actually do have to apply. So this recognises any sort of disadvantage you've had during your HSC, so year 11 or 12. And if you did, you can make an application, and we recognise that would have taken away from your HSC, and we have the points to compensate. Then there's the Big History Scheme. So this is just an online MOOC or an online course that you can do on our website. Once you complete it, just upload the certificate to UAC and boom, you've got some extra adjustment factors. Okay, so now I'll talk about the Diploma, Standard Foundation and the Intensive Foundation. So they're all under sort of the same umbrella of alternative pathways, all in the same sort of department. So I'll go through the one I did first, the diploma. So there are actually 4 different diplomas you can do. That is mine, the Diploma of Accounting, Commerce and Business Administration, the Diploma of Engineering, the Diploma of Information Technology, and the Diploma of Media and Communications. And all of those actually articulate you into the second year of related bachelor's degrees. So the entry requirements for these diploma programs are that you have an ATAR of 60 or above, or in my case, an average mark of 60 and above in the subject you completed within Year 12. One of the other great things about this program is that it's all covered by HECS. So the government will literally give you money to pay for it, so there's nothing you need to pay for up front. Then there's the intensive and the Standard Foundation program. So both of those are pretty much the same program, they're just at different lengths and different entry requirements. So for the intensive, it's half the length. So you have a 14-week program where it's sort of like a year 13 of school. So it just gets you ready to go into the first year of your degree, and once you do, you're straight in. You get guaranteed entry as long as you meet the requirements. And you can actually use fee help for this one. Then there's the Standard Foundation. So the Standard Foundation goes for 28 weeks, and once you complete that, similar to intensive, you go straight into the degree, like a year 13 as well. So for the intensive program, if you have an ATAR of 50 or above, or an average mark of 50 or above in your year 12 subjects, you're eligible. For the Standard Foundation, as long as you've completed year 11 and passed it, you're eligible. So some of the benefits of these programs are it's all on campus. So from day one, you'll have a Macquarie ID. You have access to all the same facilities as everyone else, and it really, really helps you traverse through university. So in the diploma, as an example, in my first session or my first term, I actually did an academic communication in business and economics unit. Now that counts towards my degree. I had to do some sort of elective, and they recommended that I do this one. So I took their recommendation. They already helped me out a lot, so I thought they'd have some good advice. And it turned out to be amazing. So that program is actually formulated for people going into university to give you that helping hand. So related to business, it helped me reference properly, complete the academic writing that they wanted, and it was just a good sort of buffer program to use going into the program. Then there's also how it's structured. So as some of you may know, at university, you'll most likely hear of the word lecture. Now, a lecture is similar to what I'm doing now. It'll be one teacher at the front ranting to around 200 students. Obviously, it's very daunting to ask questions, and if you don't understand something, they're just going to keep going. They don't know that you want to ask something else. Now, the program, the intensive, the Standard Foundation, and also the diploma are all run similar to high school classrooms. So there's one teacher to 25 students. And that really, really helps you engage with the content because you're able to ask the teacher at any point, you feel comfortable, you're with the same people, and it really sort of caters to those people who need that little bit of extra help. On top of that, the way it's structured is really sort of advantageous as well. So normally at a bachelor's program, the year's split up in 2 semesters. In each of those semesters, you'll complete 4 classes. So there's 4 things you have to think about at once. Whereas in these programs, the year's split up into terms, and in the terms, you just complete 2 classes. So in those 2 classes, you have more meetings per week, so it allows you to continually see the content and engage with it more. So rather than in the bachelor having you have 1 hour you have a 1 hour class on a Wednesday and then you don't see anything else for that class until the next Wednesday. A lot of stuff can be lost. Whereas in the diplomas and the standard foundation and the intensive, because you're meeting more regularly, it really kicks in and helps you perform a lot better.
Okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk to you about is the next step pathway. So like I said before, this is how I came into Macquarie. So this program is quite close to my heart. And the way this program works, you enrol in 2 of Macquarie's units, and then based on how well you perform in those units, you can transition into one of 18 Macquarie degrees. So for example, I started out doing human biology and academic communication in science, which is a similar course to the one that Connor did, where they taught me journal referencing, how to find scientific articles, how to write for a scientific publication, all the things that I needed to transition into university, which was very important to me since I had had a 4-year gap year. I didn't really remember how to study. I needed that little bit of extra help. So the next step pathway is amazing if you need a little bit of extra help. You don't want to study full-time just yet, but you don't need as much help as if you were doing, say, the diploma. So based on how well you do either after 6 months or after a year, you can transition into one of Macquarie's degrees. The next thing that is really, really helpful about this program is that initially you are studying at a part-time rate, so you're only doing 2 units. So especially if you're a mature age student or if you have other commitments, this is really, really helpful in making sure that your transition into university is easeful, it's natural, it's not going to be stressful for you guys. Another thing that's really, really good about this unit is that you're going to the same lectures, the same tutorials, the same practicals as every other Macquarie student. So you are a Macquarie student. You might think, oh, I'm doing an alternate pathway, I'm going to stand out. Trust me, you won't. You completely blend in, you get the same services, the same experience as every other Macquarie student. So if this is something that interests you, you can have more of a look at it on our website. Applications for this program close the 8th of February, and you can apply directly to Macquarie. Okay, so lastly we're just going to talk to you a little bit about some other entry pathways. So if you're an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander student, you can apply directly through that particular pathway. So if that applies to you, have a look on our website to see the conditions for that.
If none of the other programs work for you, you could consider Open Universities Australia. The only requirement for that is that you're over the age of 13, and there's 2 degrees you can choose there that are with Macquarie. After 1 semester, if you perform well enough, you can come onto campus with us. And that also ties in well with internal transfer. Now, as you may have heard, I did say there are only 2 degrees available for OUA transfers. So if that isn't really where you want to end up, you can then use internal transfer to transfer into the one that you actually do want to do. And this applies to not only people doing OUA, but also, let's say you want to do something like Bachelor of Laws. Obviously, that has a really high ATAR, and if you can actually get into something, let's say the Bachelor of Arts, which is more than 20 ATAR points lower, you can actually go through the Bachelor of Arts and make an internal transfer into the Bachelor of Law, bypassing that ATAR requirement.
So internal transfer is also really, really good if once you have become a Macquarie student and you start out in one particular degree and you decide, I'm enjoying this, but it's not exactly what I want to be doing for the rest of my degree. You can do an internal transfer into a brand new degree. So this is what I did after I finished Next Step. I did 6 months of a Bachelor of Science, and then I was offered a place within the Bachelor of Advanced Science program. So it was super easy to transition. All I had to do was fill out an internal transfer form. Macquarie was more than happy to help me out with that process, and it was super easy to transfer into my new amazing degree.
So there are a lot of things that we spoke about, and there's a lot of content heavy, so you may have forgotten some of the figures, how to apply, things like that. All you need to do to find all that information again is just Google MQ Entry Navigator into Google, click on the first one, and then it'll all be there. Okay, so we'll quickly go over some of the support services now. So as some of you will know, and you will find out, the jump between high school and university is quite a big one. So there are a lot of things that you need to learn, and if you don't really know anyone, it can be quite daunting. So we have something for that to help you get through this period, and that's called the Mentor Program. So in your first year, you get to pair up with a current Macquarie student, usually someone who's doing the same degree as you or maybe has a similar pathway to you, and they're sort of your big brother or big sister. They'll help you get through Macquarie and sort of figure out how everything works. Then there's the campus wellbeing. So this is available throughout the duration of your degree. If you need any counselling, if you need any financial help, if you need to have an extension on an exam or an assignment, it's all available there.
So the next two are really essential, really important, and unfortunately often underutilised services. So the first is the Learning Skills Centre, and this is run through the Macquarie Library, and they offer things like how to reference, how to write particular essays, even things like how to find a book in the library. They offer workshops and classes on all of these things. So if you do come to Macquarie, make sure you utilise that service.
It's all for free.
And it's all free. We love free stuff as students. So the next is the Numeracy Centre. Now, there might be some units you do that require a little bit of math. And if you're like me, math probably isn't your favourite thing in the world. So the Numeracy Centre is amazing because they offer free drop-in services every day of the week. So if you need to come in, you need to get some help with your math assignment or a particular problem you're having with the lecture, they are more than happy to help. They also offer specific workshops for specific units. So if you're doing a particular stats unit, they can help you out with that particular problem.
And finally, there's the Careers and Employment Services. So this is available, again, through the duration of your degree. At any point, you're able to drop in and help and have their services. One of the main things they do is they have an online portal where you can sign up, sort of enter some details about you, and they'll send you notifications of different jobs that are popping up related to what it is that you're studying and where you want to work. You can also go through to this program and organise a one-on-one appointment. So a lot of the time people associate careers and employment with the end of your degree. You know, you're going to finish in the next year or half a year even, and you want to figure out what's going on in the market. Are there many jobs? Where should I be applying? That sort of thing. But it's also a great tool at the beginning of your degree to figure out where your sort of industry or your qualification is going, what you need to be considering, what sort of other qualification you could to even help your employment even more, and those are all available through the Careers and Employment Services.
Okay, so like Connor said, we know we have thrown a lot of information at you guys. If it's gone over your head, that's perfectly okay. Any questions you have about anything we've spoken about today, you can always give us a call on 9850-6767. You can shoot us an email, or you can chat to us online. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.